What are we going to be discussing today?
I think we'll touch on some industry trends. I'd like to sort of give some insight into our industry and just give some optics rather than looking just at the beautiful white boat, but just sort of look at the mechanics in the industry and give some data and some insights to help us understand this wonderful industry that it's a major economic driver.
Welcome aboard. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
All right. So, as we mentioned, this is a business conversation to a certain extent. It's the business of yachting for sure. There's been so many things happening in the charter market that I think deserves being focused on, paying attention to. I've got a captain here who's run, two captains here actually, have run some amazing charter programs. And these guys know what they're talking about. They've got it figured out. They know how to make a reliable program. They're going to talk about that. As an industry, we need to pay attention because I've been paying attention to what's happened here in the last few years where you got people like Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton coming in with their high-end cruise ships saying, hey, we want some of this. And are we going to let that happen, or it's going to happen? So what's our role in how we deal with that piece of it? How do we maintain our business while allowing their business to come in and kind of come in with our clients and take up some space in our space? I'd like to go to Bert first because, anybody knows Bert, he brings the numbers, he brings the statistics, he has got his finger on the pulse of the industry, and he has been paying attention to this space. Bert, let's talk a little bit about the business of the charter yacht industry.
Sure. Well, one, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, everyone. I know a busy boat show. Everyone has a precious time and resources. It's an honor and pleasure to address you. I hope to give you some insights. So building on what Rick said, and thank you Unbridled and to the owner for putting this on. It's well needed.
Yeah, thank you, Jim Gladwell. I really appreciate the hospitality this week.
So let me give you some quick numbers. When we say super yacht, when we say mega yacht, we're dealing with a vessel over 24 meters, over 80 feet. To give you some context, that is a vessel that requires a crew for operation, and it travels from place to place. The numbers we're dealing with here are about 7,000 vessels over 24 meters or 80 feet. And what's very interesting, take that 7,000, you think it's a big number? It's not, because 70% of those vessels are registered private, 30% are registered for charter, building on what Rick said. Now let's take that further. Only a third of the 7,000 are truly migrational. So we are a shining light of economic development for areas, but we're also dealing with very niche industry. The challenge we face as well is that a majority of companies in the super yacht sector are 80 employees and less. That means small business. That means they're really focused on delivering experiences, but from a standpoint of development and industry infrastructure, it's a deep breath for us all. Charter is so important, and I'll give you an example. In the Monaco Yacht Show recently, they brought over $2 billion worth of assets to a principality that had, I believe, 2.9 square kilometers. What other industry can do that? Build a hotel takes you years. Build an amusement park, more time, permitting, and so forth. So I think we have a golden gem, and it's occurrences like this that make us understand the industry, because we just get lost and dazzled by a big white boat.
Amen. I think what you touched on is very relevant and something we pay attention to. This is a fleet of vessels that moves around, and we have that as an asset for the industry, because we're able to move this asset of a fleet where we need to go, or where we're welcome to go. Steve, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the future. What you see going forward in this industry. You've been in it for quite a while, and I know you got some thoughts.
Yeah, I think my first Fort Lauderdale boat show, I think, was 1991. So yeah, but I think that it's an exciting time, and the things that are taking place, the initiatives that are taking place by Unbridled, and like Alex and with Yachtieworld, and a lot of different things are happening, and I think it's an exciting time. Social media is fundamentally changing things. The industry is fundamentally changing. I think we're at a good inflection point in the industry. A lot of people are nervous about that, but I think there's always an opportunity at an inflection point. And I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities. And I think as an industry, we should challenge ourselves to look forward. I mean, we built a lot of great traditions in this industry. You couldn't pick a better industry to be part of. But at the same time, those traditions can sometimes hold us back, I think. And when we get stuck in our ways and we just stick purely to tradition, and we don't try to push the envelope forward, that can hold everybody back. So the fact that the big hotel groups are moving in, I think, is a wonderful thing. And I think that it's going to step up all of our games to another level. But at the same time, if you look at the experience that is provided by the wonderful crew and the professionals in this industry, I think somebody in this panel had mentioned earlier, and I'll steal their thunder, but they had mentioned about how the hotels are a 5-star industry, yet look what we're providing. I mean, it's way beyond 5 stars when you look at the personalized service, the personal chef, personal bartender at all times. I mean, it's and just the pleasure that comes with it. I mean, when you're going to a concierge desk has a whole different experience than when you have a whole crew dedicated to making your vacation, a memorable moment for a lifetime. So I think it's important for all of us to, respect the tradition, but also, say how can we improve as an industry. And the last thing I would say on that subject is, if you think about it, we're building the world's most expensive products for consumer recreational use or just in general, non-transportation wise, etc. And but yet, in a lot of respects, our industry remains behind other industries. And I think the builders of our industry and the charter vessels of our industry have really set a very high bar. And I think now as a whole, as an industry, from a marketing perspective and whatnot, we all need to step up our game and take the industry to the next level with the products.
Bravo. And Steve, I'm going to segue off of that, stepping up the game a little bit, and dovetail this hotel business that's moved on to the ocean, and how it compares with and challenges the business that we've developed over the last many decades in charter. And I'm going to go to Herb Magney on this, because I've had many conversations with Herb over a long time, and I understand exactly where he's coming from. It's about the program, and not every charter yacht is built the same, is operated the same. Not every program is the same. But one of the risks I think we have to address is that if you go on board one of these luxury cruise ships, you're pretty sure that the boat's going to leave the dock when the boat's scheduled to leave the dock, and you're pretty sure that it's going to get to its destination, and you're not going to have your charter canceled. And yet we hear stories about that type of thing that happens in this industry. So going to a captain who has run some very, very successful multiple charter programs on vessels from anywhere from 30 meters to 80, 90 meters. Herb, I want you to talk a little bit about the security, the stability of a good charter program. What's that look like? How do you make sure that you're able to step up and make it work?
Oh, thanks, Rick. And the mechanics. First of all, I'm going to dive for a second. Why am I here? It's about my agenda. Why are we all here? It's about our agenda. I have clients I've looked after for decades, and I need for them to go out and live their dream. What these people are doing right here is something to believe in. I'm going to put my reputation and all of the above when I make my recommendations to the charter brokers who are closing the sales about all that. What does that mean? What's behind that decision? What's behind that agenda that I'm going to trust this guy? It is the mechanics of knowing that Bert and his system have got a place for me to launch from and retrieve from, and destinations that I can trust the staff. Because my clients. I've got high net worth individuals. They have heads of state. The head of Putin's security staff. I don't want to make that guy angry. Everything's got to go great, right? And then I got to have all the other people that are part of the whole thing. It's all got to come together. And then I have to trust my logistics team. I'm only as good as my worst vendor. I can control my crew, but I don't have the control of the rest of things. So I have to develop relationships of trust. I have to make sure that I have good systems in place. I have good communications, I have logistics, I have spares, I have everything I need to conduct a mission, because it is mission critical. Because that high net worth individual's week, to pull their whole family together in 3 or 4 generations, or the heads of 3 different movie productions, whoever it might be, that value is so much more than what the retail price of it is. When we understand that, and if we fail by a day, if we fail by an hour, what does that really look like to them? It's huge. It's huge. When they take the focus away from their multi-billion-dollar company, and they're focused on, hey buddy, don't mess it up, right? And that goes to the charter broker. That's a teamwork. That is a relationship right there that we have to get this right. What are you doing? What are you going to do? So it is back to the basics of any business. We're in the service business with a mechanical thing. Our trucks have to be on time. Our technicians have to be trained on time. We have to be current with all of our regulations. So when we go and we make that house call, we win. And we better have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, because the whole program is based on zero default. For us to have that client call us back or use words at the end of that week, never before. Right? Absolutely amazing. My grandkids are crying. Those are the words that describe a dream come true. But it all boils down to the mechanics, man. If we don't drive the boat right, if we don't pick the right place to go, if we don't follow the right numbers, if we don't have all the pieces. So yes, there are more moving parts than most helicopters.
So Herb, what happens if you're on the way to the boat, start off the charter, and somebody T-bones you in an intersection? All of a sudden we've lost our captain.
Phone calls. I was at a party last night with no more less than 6 of my former relief captains. I would have 3 deep. One of my relief captains is actually here in the audience. Where's Ben Pullen? Ben around? Ben already, he was former captain of this. Ben was on the boat, one of my reliefs. Anything that I fell down, all the rest of the crew should be able to move up. That's training within any organization. Everybody should be able to step up. But when it comes to a crew rule, if you can't keep a key captain in place and your first officer, you need to have 2 phone calls away. And there's a whole bunch of them out here running boats right now that it was a phone call away, without question. I'll be there because we believe in the whole program.
Bravo.
Oh, by the way, I learned that from Mark Elliott.
All right. He knows a little bit about what he talks about. Steve, you and I were talking not so long ago, and you also said, as an industry, we're a bit behind the curve. What do we do to get ahead of this curve? How do we scale? I mean, what we're doing today, I think, is to a certain extent remarkable. Look around, look at the people that are here. We're all industry professionals, have been in the game. We've got a dog in the fight. We're interested in this conversation because it means something to our businesses personally and corporately. But how do we take where we are today and reconvene a year or 2 years from now and say, wow, look what's happened. Look what's changed.
Well, I think taking a step forward and trying new things in a way. We recently have moved from a traditional MLS of yachts for sale, and then expanded to charter and builders, and now we've moved to business as well through Triton and A-Crew. And that step was, a lot of people said, well, why would you want to get involved with Triton and A-Crew? It's all about crew, and when you think about it, taking a step forward, I believe that we can now provide our customers global reach to all sectors of the industry by pulling it together. Now, would I like to go faster? Every day I want to go faster. Right? But the boat only goes so fast, right?
Steve, most of us travel at 10 to 16 knots, okay, just so you know.
But would I like to move faster with, more aggressive design, more aggressive social media, more aggressive, but you have resources and you have budgets, right? So, I think we all have those constraints. So you have to pick and choose your battles. And sometimes, you may have the best plans, but you have to keep doing that. So, sometimes you grow as Bert has experienced, and then sometimes you pull back a little bit and tighten the ship. But at the same time, I think not being afraid to take a step forward, and possibly venture into new territory. I mean, there's what's the saying, right? If you haven't run aground, you haven't been to enough places as a captain, right?
Just not during a trip, okay? All right, during the trip. How do we take the X out of anxiety? Right? Get more information out.
Yeah.
Right, good point. So Bert, you're in a space where you are looking after destinations. You're providing resources for vessels when they're coming and going. Um, your business has scaled a lot over the last several years. Um, how do you put yourself in the role of participating in this dream that these charter clients are looking for? What what brings a company like IGY to the table to say, yes, you want to be focused on our marinas, our destinations, because we then, Captain, can help you do X, Y, and Z. What's that look like in your world?
Well, I think it's important that we all understand that we are part of the tourism industry. We forget that. I think when we're looking at hospitality and tourism, we are part of a bigger picture. Um, IGY operates 23 marinas across 13 countries. We're the largest super yacht marina company in the world. But what makes us different is the planning and the procedures and the team in place. That is so important because we forget that hospitality is about service. These vessels are incredible, but it takes the human element behind it. Now, the other view, and this is really thanks to the MarineMax ethos, which we're part of, we also have to be a destination partner. There are private and public stakeholders at each of these destinations, but what we're dealing with is a port or a marina. There's some aspect where we have to deliver that. And I think many industries are outside, no one sees us. When you walk the boat show, you see a lot of people, but you're looking at the boat. Behind that boat is 41 people, hired indirectly or directly. And what is important, these are amazing professionals. When I first boarded Unbridled, we were having a meeting. I was greeted at the walkway. There was work being done by an amazing team, but they made sure I felt totally comfortable coming on board. It starts from the beginning, but we forget that. We look at an asset and say, well, and Steve said it best, the boat will operate by itself. It will not. And I think it's important from a destination standpoint, when we, especially from an IGY perspective, we work with private and public stakeholders to look at not only the asset or the marina infrastructure, but how do we make sure that the culture is correct? How do we make sure that provisioning is there? Herb touched on it. These are all components. A vessel will spend about 10% of its asset value per year on maintenance and service. We are the economic lottery for every single port in the world, but we're only seen as the big white boat or the big blue boat. So I think to answer your question, Rick, it's about becoming a destination partner. As I said before, you want to build a hotel? Better have a lot of money, a lot of time, and God bless hotels. I have nothing against them. I'm just saying what we offer is a unique partnership with a destination that will build an economy. And here's the best part, for small business. We are low impact tourism. Now people will say, well, compared to the resources, but let's take a really good look at what we offer compared to what it would cost for another destination. We bring a lot of value, but we also bring more than that, a partnership to a destination. I bet we can all name a destination that yachts go to, and that's the whole point.
I also greeted the gangway the first time I came on Unbridled here recently. Was a wonderful experience. A group of us sat down, had a lovely lunch. Thanks to the crew of Unbridled, we walked off the boat really with a wow moment. Thank you, Captain. That was special.
Outstanding.
There you go. And I've been in this game a long time. Those that know me, and so I've had the pleasure and the privilege, and sometimes the challenges of being involved in programs that work really well and some that don't work very well at all. And I can tell you, Unbridled's program works exceptionally well. The crew, I can just fundamentally feel it. The vibe is there. The morale and camaraderie is there. Captain Herb, that didn't happen automatically or by itself.
And it doesn't, but it is the assumption is there that it will, like it is something programmed, like it's our new phone, and unfortunately it doesn't.
How do you get there? How do you build a team like Liam's got here that's so cohesive that when you come on board the boat, you feel like you've just come someplace special. You know fundamentally the rest of your trip's going to be pretty amazing.
Any team, whether it's a sports team, a service team, especially because we're touching people. Freight doesn't talk back is one of the things in shipping. Okay, our freight talks back.
Well said.
So do most of our crew too. I know. I know the crew do. So honestly, it goes to elements of basic leadership, and not everybody gets to be an astronaut, but not everybody wants to be an astronaut. But we sure need a really big ground team to put something into space.
Yeah.
And that is important. That is teamwork. And I don't want to be trite about it. But the simple fact is teamwork does make the dream work. Absolutely. And without dedicated teamwork, when you have somebody who's polarizing that, okay, and that is going to be the captain by definition of rank and skill set, experience, training, and connection. And I don't mean just connection with Brooks was saying, his ability to connect with his entire surroundings, situational awareness, and then take that and project that into prospective crew members that want to follow, crew members that are like, I love what you're doing. I love what you're projecting. I love what you're saying. This has been, he's a scuba guy, which is called, I don't know how many of you have been diving. He and I have been divers. Well, that's another story.
It's a good story.
Great story. We go way back, a long time back in the 70s. So, but the diving is a whole nother experience. So here Liam's taking this whole nother realm and experience and tackling it with the most amazing surroundings. But it all falls down, except without his leadership, leading a crew that's willing to follow. That is where the magic is about skill sets and leadership, skill sets and training, having a plan that has steps of progression and action. We're talking about that. There's no magic, but there is human interaction. Okay, and there is human interaction and leadership, and that leadership and that guidance. It's the person on the point. Yeah. And when all goes wrong, it sucks to be you, dude. So you really want to try hard for it not to go wrong. And that's what keeps us up late at night and going over this. Is that done? Is that done? Is that done? Ask me 5 times. Yeah, I know. I got one more coming. But it's important because when it all does come to pay, how cool does that feel at the end of that trip?
It's special. It's special. I've done it for a lot of years.
Come on.
But for me, it's a systematic approach. It's the numbers too. It's a systematic approach to what we do. It's not random. None of this is random. Being here in this special moment
Totally correct.
isn't random. There's a systematic approach to what you do, and you must be patient. You must have faith, and you must trust the people around you. Around you in terms of crew, around you in terms of a marina, around in terms of the industry and industry leaders.
Well said.
That's the main point for me in business in yachting and why Unbridled is trying to make itself unique in the sense that we have a great owner. We want to collaborate more with more people to try and showcase how beautiful this industry is and how much potential we actually have to grow. Because I think we limit ourselves by individually thinking we are at our best. We are only at our best when we combine our efforts for a common goal. And the common goal for me is yachting. We have an unbelievable product. The Ritz-Carlton Yacht Centre is the standard we should be looking at. Anything less is not acceptable. And how do we get there as a team is more of where I'm kind of coming from. We get there as a team by working with exceptional leaders like Mr. Bert Fowles, who are working with exceptional companies like Steve, taking advice from great captains as well, and working with collaborators like Rick Thomas there as well. So that's my business yachting speech.
Well said. Well said, Liam. That's exactly, I think that's relevant to what we're trying to communicate today. It is a team. It's a group of people that it started with Mr. Gladwell.
Mr. Gladwell.
He had a vision. He's acquired this asset.
He's got 3 yachts, 2 other exceptional captains, and a great history of exceptional captains like Mike Finnegan and Zoom Zoom Zoom.
Yep.
Like Ohana. He's got wonderful children. He is a legacy on his own, and for me, as part of that, I would like to build on that. And all of his employees and all of his company have the same vision.
Right. So he has this dream. He sees how he wants to, use his asset and to a certain extent monetize his asset when he can with charter, and create a reputation, with this boat. And I think most owners that are serious about charter have a similar vision. They from my experience, they want to try to deliver the best they can. Now, I've run into other owners through my yacht management companies and other businesses where they think they're just going to buy a boat and it's going to automatically pay for itself once you put it in charter, which I create a little chuckle from that and go, well, welcome to the real world. We'll see where that works out. But when you understand the way the programs work, then you have some certain expectations that can be realistic. And I think what you're delivering to Mr. Gladwell is a realistic professional program. Steve, how would you take a program like this and deliver the message in today's media? How do we get away from the old school way of a yacht charter broker taking a few pictures, doing a quick walkthrough through a boat, and throwing it up, on a website or in a brochure, I think charter my boat.
I mean,
we're in a different world these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And Unbridled is charting new territory as well. So it's great to see. I mean, taking initiatives like that, just sitting back and waiting for the same clientele to come to boat shows, or trolling through your same, database of customer lists and constantly marketing, sending email campaigns and brochures to those same customers. That's all well and good. But, there are so many potential new charter clients out there that I don't even think they understand what it's all about, and it could really impact the industry positively as well. I think a lot of times our industry, I think, is guilty as a whole of we tend to apologize for our industry sometimes, or we kind of say, oh, well, we don't want to be perceived as catering to, this affluent class, but yet there's so many positive impacts. I mean, the stats that Bert put out today at the seminar lunch with the USSA, it was, the impact is phenomenal. I mean, the economic impact, even environmental, this industry is, particularly in Europe, they're pushing forward aggressively with sustainability and, lots of new technologies and things that are going to impact, the oceans across the board, commercially, et cetera. So I think looking at new ways of marketing, trying new things, opening up the door and, kind of opening ourselves out to the world, and instead of kind of keeping everything hidden and hush hush. I mean, yeah, obviously we want to respect confidentiality. That's first and foremost.
Yep.
But we don't have to be afraid to tell the world about it. And again, it's going to be exciting times. I mean, with 4 seasons and Ritz-Carlton and the others embracing, there's going to be a lot of eyes opened up, and it's just going to create a lot of opportunity. So I would end with saying, just keep trying new things like Unbridled. I love it.
Yeah, I've given a lot. Yeah, really, no doubt about it. Liam, good on you, man. Watching this this change in the industry, and I keep going. I've gone back now to Ritz-Carlton, 4 seasons, those types, and there'll be other followers probably into that. One of the things I think we can pay attention to as an industry is they're going to bring other high net worth individuals onto the ocean that haven't been onto the ocean before, because it's a little more affordable, and they have an experience now that goes, wow, it's not like going on the Disney Dream now, is it? Nothing against that. That's not a. I've done that before. It's okay, but these cruise ships are delivering a much different experience. But then, of course, the takeaway is, Herb said before, and we've had other conversations, that you're on these cruise ships, but you're not having a concierge level bartender at your beck and call. You're not talking to the captain of that boat saying, Cap, I want to go over here today instead of over there today. You're sharing the dream with 100 other high net worth individuals. So I think as an industry, we can look at this and say, hey, here's an opportunity to bring people into our industry Now you've had this 5-star experience. Wait until you have one of these experiences, and there you go. So that said, my statistics guy, Bert, how many boats are actually in the charter space? There's a lot of white boats around here, but how many of them are actually actively chartering or trying to be part of this space? What's that look like?
You know, I feel I'm among friends in the industry, so I'm going to be very mercenary in my details. So looking at the data, and you can use plus or minus in your own minds. Let me give you an example, and I'm going to touch on each point. Herb mentioned the cargo industry. Definitely a booming business. 55,000 vessels are on the water commercial. Let me repeat that, 55,000.
Wow.
That's a lot. And we're talking oil tankers to all aspects. We are 7,000, to give you some scale. In the cruise ship world, there are about, I won't quote a number that I don't know. There are a lot of cruise ships, but not as many as 7,000. I believe it's under 300. Let me give you some real specifics in that regard. So the new cruise ships that we're speaking of, and God bless all of them, the high-end cruise ships, nothing against them, just giving you the data. They will take 300 passengers, okay? If we look at a rough estimate, that means, as Steve was saying with the market, they're growing the market. They're growing at 12% from an occupancy standpoint. That's massive. But what I'm saying is, those vessels that are competing for our customers as well will take away 12 charters for every journey they take. We're in the fight of our lives. But as Steve so rightly said, we have to look at different options. I think what Unbridled's doing with this is an opportunity to speak with the voice of all of us who are employed in the industry. We love our owners. Without them, we would not have vessels. But I think communicating where we stand, many of us with employees less than 80, some with a little more, but we're able to create a dialogue of what we're doing for the business model of charter to really improve it. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, I think it gives it. No, I've been told that when you look at the fleet, of the fleet, you see maybe 30%, 25, 30% are in the space of charter. Is that reasonably accurate?
I think coming back to the point to help everyone, so let's just take the numbers. There's 7,000 vessels plus or minus. Everyone got that?
Got it.
Divide that by 3. That's how many are truly transient. Some vessels don't leave Fort Lauderdale. Okay? Now, take it further. Of the registered vessels, and I'm using macro terms, you know, you can plus or minus, 70% of the vessels in the fleet, whether it's the 7,000 or the smaller number, the 30% that are charter, what we're dealing with is 70. Well, let me be clear: 7,000 total vessels. Divide by 3. 70% of those are registered private. 30% are registered for charter. So the inventory is quite small. And God bless every charter manager, every charter broker, every captain, because guess what? We earn every boat. We're not in an industry. There are more iPhones sold than babies born every year. We're not a numbers game. And as building on what Herb said, we're a quality game. But what does that mean? And I think as Steve was touching on, and Rick as well, when we say the word luxury, first of all, it's overused. I can have a luxury pen, God bless, or I can have a luxury phone. What we need to do together, and I think all of us together, is understand if I say hotel brand X, everyone does this. Oh, I expect it. In our industry, it's boat by boat. Will that boat do the same? Will I be greeted at the front every time like Unbridled? So I think to answer your question, Rick, and thanks for reminding me of the specifics.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a small niche industry working together, and we're all in this. And as we understand that, especially with destinations, all due respect, we earn every boat, and every destination has to be a hub for the business, and that's going to be the numbers that we need. But we're a very small industry.
Bravo. Excellent. I knew he'd come to the table with some good numbers and some stats and help us get a little focus on where this could be. Going back to Herb now, because I see something else in this space that I think is worth talking about. You bring a lot of people, well, it's relative, but when you bring people on board a charter vessel, you've got some people coming back for their second, third, fourth, fifth experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes they book the same trip every year because they've had an amazing experience. Some people are coming on for the first time, or they're bringing on friends, family for the first time.
100%.
That's an opportunity.
it's two case examples that we can track real easy. Many, many years ago, a couple had a place in the Bahamas, booked a trip. We took them on their first yacht charter. After that yacht charter, took them on another one, and then rolled them over to another friend of mine who was running the boat after. They continued to charter. And then they said, we have to have our own charter boat. So then they called the broker, and they said, great. Charter broker said, look, we got this great young captain. We think he's going to be a winner. And they ran that to the dog, and they said, we got to need a bigger boat. So they went and they bought a bigger boat. And then they did that all over again. And they just said, we haven't got enough room in this boat for us and all of our friends. We got to get a bigger boat. So you'll see him in a couple minutes. That's how Paul Loon did that. And I was their first charter client.
There you go.
I took them, said, you will never go back. Ever. You will be hooked and addicted to this. And then another one that scales, it scaled into business, okay? And it scaled up and up and it scaled out from there. Another one. So the guy who created Fly Jet Edge from NetJets, and then he opened up his business. And then I took him and his wife and my crew, and we took them on their honeymoon, just the two of them. And then when they were done with him, they're like, oh my God, we thought we were in the cool stuff because we take care of big jets. This is way beyond big jets. Give me more. So we gave him more, we gave more. And then after that, now Bill has not only bought a boat, he's started a business with Andrew Blackman. They have their own charter business because he's like, I had to share this, but I had to spin it with my airline clients, my airplane clients, because, oh man, if they step off one of my planes, they're going to get on one of my boats. So this is where a guy who took it under control. But here's where more business was brought into the business of charter and yachting and generating our little bitty, culture. Do we call it culture? No, our little bitty business, our boutique business. And we're in the business of making dreams come true at the end of the day. And people want to come back more for that.
Right. Bravo. And that's exactly kind of the direction I was going in. You do it right, and your guest becomes your next client. The broker that made that happen becomes the best friend of that individual family group, and they've got another client, and it scales and it scales. And of course, the risk there is if you don't deliver, then you move things in the wrong way. You push them onto these hotel cruise ships. So that's the yin and the yang to that. But done right, and with the right focus and with the right energy and the right program, we build a business and we grow our business. And I think that's what we want to look towards as we go into the future: is how do we work as an industry cohesively, collaboratively, to bring these entities together and get these people on board going, wow, more, yeah, more, yeah. Steve, what do you think?
I was I was just thinking of a story that I had read recently or was listening to recently on an ebook, and it was a story about a founder of one of the jet carts. I forget which one it was, and somebody might remember the story. But it was basically when he was looking at how to get his jet cart business going and how to look at marketing this business, and he didn't have a huge budget, but he thought he was onto a good idea. So he went to a hedge fund conference, and he couldn't get a credential. So he noticed. So he went to a coffee shop nearby, and he noticed that at the exact same time every day, all the same people were coming from the hedge fund conference.
Brilliant.
And they were all eating the muffins. Okay, so he went back first thing the next morning and he bought all the muffins from the place, had them in boxes, and sat in the corner with a coffee. And then these hedge fund people were coming, and suddenly he had the muffins. So he said, "Hey, you want a muffin?" He sat down, and he ended up getting 3 clients from that coffee shop.
That man's a pure entrepreneur.
I raised that story just to say, try and again, coming back to the theme of trying new things.
The message there is, when take control of the narrative.
There you go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Bert, as you're picking up on all of this, what is because I come from not the charter yacht industry, I come from the manufacturing side and yacht management side, so I bring different perspectives. And so I've been on the other side of that phone call when the captain's calling saying, I've got a charter coming up and you guys got to get that thing fixed. You don't understand how important this is. What do we do as an industry, a support industry for this industry? How do we
I would say that the charter yacht industry did not do a great job of educating the rest of our industry about the importance of showing up and being that support network they have to maintain this level of success. What do we do as an industry to step the game up? Because it transcends just the charter yacht industry. It goes deeper than that.
That's a great point. How many here in the audience know their customer journey? I know it's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think what Rick pointed out is that you have a customer journey from an owner standpoint, you have a customer journey from the charter guest standpoint, but as Steve was saying and following through to Herb and Captain Liam, each point along that trail is so important because it builds on the other. These boats just didn't arrive here. There was anxiety in docking. Is the electric correct? Is there provisioning provided? And I think more communications, and I go back and I will say it every time, what Unbridled is doing is bringing a different narrative to the customer journey. We get on these docks, and hats off to Informa. I mean, here's a fantastic answer to the question. There are 7 locations at the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show this year. They are all under development. That requires an investment in time, capital, and resources by some amazing public assets as well as private. But to answer your question, Rick, the customer journey has to be looked at completely. Herb and Captain Liam said it, planning. And I think we jump those steps in saying that, okay, what about an advanced provisioning allowance? What about the electric? These yachts just don't pull up. So I think using a very curated approach with conversations that are simple, that just make everyone understand. What is also overlooked, and Steve touched on it, are crew. They are so vital to the operation. Crew are human beings that are doing an incredible job with, and I love what Captain Sandy said, with souls on board.
There you go.
So in looking at it, is everyone gets on the plane, we're listening to the pilot. Everyone gets on the ship, the yacht, it's the captain. So to answer your question, from a message of what is prepared for each destination, working with really good partners that are able to have a holistic discussion, that are able to say, why is the customer coming? Seasonal, annual, transient, boatyard. That's where the real discussion comes from our industry, as opposed to, hey, this is really cool. Because the captain's the one who has a lot of the responsibility, but he's got an entire team behind him. And that's what's going to make the difference to making sure that a vessel that arrives in a new destination, in our approach, and I say this with the confidence of an entire IGY team behind me, and also MarineMax, is what is the customer journey? How are we going to make it better, regardless of location? And I think Herb and all the captains here, regardless of where you are, there are no excuses. Rick said it best. If you're on a hotel brand, you expect, all of us would, you arrive at 9:30, you get off, you go that, and so forth. In our industry, how do you do this? What if they wake up anytime they want? Are you ready? What if they want lunch when they really wanted breakfast? So I think to answer your question, Rick, working together with a conversation that's simple, that takes the anxiety out from the customer journey across the entire spectrum will make a difference.
Bravo, I agree.
One thing is so important because you talk about the journey and we talk about the logistics. And I just want to take a step because I was hashing over from 20-something years ago. My first charter show was 1996. A few people are thinking in the room. And it cannot function without the help of everything happening back in the offices here. Whether that office used to be a little place in St. Thomas and we were trading heat faxes, right? and we had to close contracts by calling the marine operator so I could talk to the broker and go, so really, what did you promise? Okay. And then bags of money came down for the APAs. What is so amazing today in the advancements today is how we can have so much support. We have management companies, we have charter dedicated teams, we have so much more now available to you to execute that dream, to the logistical support. I'm envious, I'm jealous. Trust me, I'd probably be a lot younger today if we didn't have to go through what someone went through. But that's the amazing thing, is to deliver that journey even easier. But I will say, I know from having a finger on the pulse with a couple of generations of captains, is we need to get back more into that more connect. We're leaving a few too many things up to the form, a few too many things up to, but that's okay. It honestly, a little more interaction from charter management, charter broker, the education back and forth. What is the practicality of? Don't pitch that because it's impossible for us to deliver that. Talk to us about what we can really deliver. Get us involved with your client in the closing, okay? Let us, don't sell a promise that we can't deliver because then everybody's gonna look like an idiot and they're gonna go somewhere else and they're gonna buy a house or something. No, really talk to your captains, okay? And if you find it difficult, get through the difficulty of it or reach out and reach for some help, okay? I'm here because I'm gonna be sending clients over and trusting them with this dude. Trust me, I want it to go well, dude. I don't want them calling me up. But there's that same relationship with all the brokers and the broker support and the assistant staff and the management teams. And then it leads to brokerage. We all really want it to go. So let's put a little bit more human back in it tomorrow. Let's do it today. And that's what he's doing here by bringing all you here is putting us all face to face, where we can all talk and learn from each other. Let's get a little more reconnected. The social thing is great, and the media, like I got this fold phone, my kid picked it out, right? So I don't have to wear glasses. I get it on technology. But there's nothing more valuable than when this guy and his team have that high net worth individual sleeping, eating, breathing, doing all those things for 1 week right here. They don't do that much at home. Most of them don't have their kids at home. They don't have their CEOs right here. That's all happening right here. 24 hours a day. And he's got it set up. Every moment matters. And every moment is a personal moment for that staff. And when they got it right and it's going great, super. But then he's got to manage all their anxieties and all of theirs and the guests and everything else. You got my sympathy. Trust me, dude. The card is in the mail with the check. But my message is, let's get back to connecting and talking more with each other and working on that individual case and that problem because we want that charter to go well for everybody, especially the customer. That's the culmination. That's the beginning of their journey when they get off and they're like, how can I book this again?
Bravo. And I think that whole, I was going to say that holistic element to looking at it holistically, I think is important. I think a lot of us, all of us can be guilty of kind of getting in our lane and staying, kind of laser focused on where we are in the industry. And, but when you think about it, looking at that whole journey, and that includes like at the show, I mean, how many of us really like go off the super yacht dock and maybe go down to where the Sea Ray the guys are buying their first boat and having their first experience. So understanding that understanding that whole, looking at the industry holistically, and understanding that journey that
that's the journey.
Bert and Bert laid out so well.
That's our future clients. That's right down that way. I watched it happen my entire career. They just move up, and you make relationships, you maintain those relationships, and look what happens. Bert, final thoughts?
I'll leave you with one word: frictionless.
I knew that was coming.
My goal is to put things in the most simple way because it's easier to explain. All of us working together in industry, we can create a frictionless experience along the customer journey. I love my brother Herb, but I will differ in one point. The customer journey starts with us. What's the perception of the industry? How do we explain it? How do we make it simple enough where it's understood? So if we leave it with anything, and once again, thanks to Unbridled for this. This is outstanding. And the best part is you're able to look crew in the eye because they do so much for us. So thank you all crew in attendance. We know how difficult every day is, but our goal together is a frictionless industry along a customer journey.
Fantastic. Listen,
Safe season, God bless. Later, guys.
Unbridled!